categories in which I think maybe you should be careful taking my advice. I've been meaning to talk about this for a long time, and they are when visiting Paris and when moving to Paris. Now, I'm not saying my advice is bad, far from it. I think I have fantastic advice, but my advice is definitely not for everyone. And it might not be for you. I don't think everybody gets that all the time, especially when it comes to moving here. I think the first one should be pretty obvious. Honestly, at least it feels obvious to me, but it needs a little bit of saying that when it comes to like visiting Paris and how I would recommend you do it, it's not how like I think everyone would have you do it. It's just how I would do it if it were me, and I live here. For example, I think the average tourist is probably looking for like the Parisian cafe experience. You know, when they come, they want to sit on a corner with like the wicker chairs and the awnings and all that kind of stuff. But for me, when I'm looking for coffee, wherever I am, I'm looking for good coffee, like the specialty kinds. And I get it, those environments can be really nice, and I have a couple of them in my guide, but you know, principally what I'm looking for is going to be like whatever the local roasting experience is. If you've watched me for more than 5 minutes, that's super obvious though. I would think it would be. Merci. Same with food. Like I don't know if it's because I live here or just because it's not necessarily always to my preference, but I don't eat a lot of French food, like maybe once out of every 5 to 10 meals, depending on the week. Really? Usually I'm going for like stronger flavors, a little bit more international cuisine to see what new creative thing is happening, and the occasional burger. Unfortunately, not a lot of great pizza that I love here, and that is an unpopular opinion that I think will get me in trouble, but I do have the best pizza in the world on the way. I'll tell you more about that in the not too distant future. So I like to eat a diverse array of foods, and I know that the average person coming to Paris, especially if it's your first time, you might just want to get only French food and only that, in which case, also probably not your guy. Although I do have some good ones. I definitely have some good ones in there.
There'll be some good pizza soon.
There's more good pizza coming, it's true. Also, we struggle for spicy food here, but that's also coming around a little bit more. If you like spicy food and you're coming to Paris, just be prepared. It's going to be a fairly spice-free experience. I do really like this place. If you're on like an Indian food hunt, you should probably go to London. That's where like the real hits are, but this is the first place like this in Paris that we've had in a while. It's kind of like Dishoom light. It doesn't exactly have the same level of thoughtful touches that a Dishoom would have in the decoration and certain elements in the menu, but otherwise it is nice. The people are very friendly. The food is good. I feel satisfied. We didn't even eat that much, and it's like hit the spot. Between the chicken korma and the garlic naan, I'm happy. So even if we haven't quite hit the pinnacle of what's possible here in Paris when it comes to certain international food, it's coming along, especially for the people that, like we were just talking about, uncles who think of Paris as not being that international because they came here 15 years ago or whatever. Like, it's come a long ways, and I think the trajectory is very positive. But for me, a huge part of the draw of living in Paris is that it is an international city. And while it may not be the most famous for all of its international food, as we were saying, the French do tend to focus on French food, and that is the staple that you're going to find. For me, the joy has been in discovering all of the things that are evolving here when it comes to all kinds of international cuisine. It's one of the big draws of living here. Back to the coffee side, though, not to knock my recommendations, like atmosphere, service, the food are all elements of it. It's just maybe not the classic French cafe side of things so much. Ultimately, me living here and just being a guy that's trying to enjoy, I love Paris for its international side of, I like the crossing of cultures. I love being able to try a myriad of different foods all the time. So that's really my ultimate motivation, like what's gonna tickle my fancy for the day? And that's what makes me maybe not the best person for everybody, because some people, when they come here, they just wanna have, you know, croissants and macaroons, and that's it, they're happy, and that's fine. I've got some of those in my guide, but like my focus is on exploring. It's one of the things I love most. It's also probably tied into the reason why if you wanna move here, I also might not be the best person to get advice from. Click, clack. When it comes to living here, like the thing is that the most people that come here come for a few reasons, right? Or the way that they get here on visas. You've got people that end up moving here for school. So you come on a student visa, which if you're gonna come and get like your master's, I think is honestly one of the best ways to come here because you end up being able to work 20 hours a week, and if you get a French master's, tends to smooth the way for future visas. So I think that's a really good way of doing it. Other people come for romance, right? They meet some French person somewhere else and then end up moving here, which the success rate of that is definitely debatable. You can always, I mean, at least there's some really interesting stories. And then the rest, when they end up here, either come here with a spouse who has a job or because they have a job. People end up getting jobs in like multinationals or in government positions or whatever that move them here, often temporarily, sometimes for longer, but you know, you're very much dependent on your job sponsoring you to be here. I think those are generally the major ways that people end up here if you're not European and you need a visa to come here. The way that I did it was kind of random and lucky as much as anything, which I absolutely don't recommend coming to France the way that I came to France. The thing is that me moving here was just like a pure passion thing, right? Like a desire to be in Paris. I can't explain why. I'm not exactly like a Francophile, despite the fact that I speak the language and I'm becoming French, and this is the coolest French kid I think I've ever seen in my life. I kind of came here out of like a sheer force of will. If you know my story, you know that like it was not easy for me to get here, but if you don't know my story, I came on English teaching visas the first 2 times, which is what got my feet wet, but those English teaching visas were only good for like 8 to 10 months, and then I had to leave. I wasn't allowed to stay, I couldn't extend it, like I was gonna have to figure that out, and I didn't have the money to do that. And I think one of the biggest things that people don't talk about is if you wanna move to France, odds are very good that you are going to need a good chunk of money to do it. Money that I definitely didn't have, and money that I would argue it would be smart to at least save up before you try to make it happen. And thanks to today's patron producer, Jennifer, and all my patrons for making this possible to dispense what little wisdom I have. But I just thought, you know, today, the context of when and where you should maybe take my advice or maybe not. Am I the right fit for you? Please, hopefully my advice is helpful. Am I not? Well, hopefully you know that better now than you did before. Anyway, I just thought I'd clarify. I gotta go through and like remove, I've been talking about how I'm removing places from my guide, a number of them. Like I'd like to raise the quality. I wanna make sure that the standard is higher, really high, like only places that I actually wanna go back to. And why? There are a number of places in there that don't hold up to that anymore, that used to, but aren't there. And then also bring in that clarity that like, my guide is highly specific. Like these are places that I've gone, that I've tried, that have made the cut. There's so many places that I've cut in the past that no one even knows I've gone to, or that I, you know, are in the vlog, but I never mentioned and definitely don't put in my guide. And in the process of doing that, I just thought it'd be helpful maybe and important to clarify like, yeah, this is how I'm going about it. And then as far as moving here, people ask me for advice on moving here all the time and highly recommend it. I love this city, but at the same time, yeah, I wouldn't do it the way I did it. Like I would definitely like go to school or like get a good job or maybe move in here as an artist and just winging it. I mean, it's fun. I'm very glad that I did it. Not good for the cortisol levels.